Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the GrowVC Everyone Funding Startups podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Williams. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a trip to the Far East to explore the local startup ecosystems in Beijing and surrounding areas of China. And since I'm in no way an expert on this subject, we are fortunate to be joined by someone who is. Carole Wai Hai is a French-born entrepreneur currently living in Beijing. Carole is the founder of grassRoots'ly, a new service designed to help connect brands with their offline communities in China. And she's also the organizer who brought the Hyper Accelerator iWeekend series to Beijing. Carole, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Ryan. It's my honor.
Well, why don't we start off by having you give our listeners a brief background of yourself and kind of how you became involved with entrepreneurship.
Okay, sure. So I arrived in Beijing maybe 5 years ago. I was just graduated from Paris, and I was looking for excitement. The Olympic Games was going to happen in 2008 in Beijing, so I thought it would be interesting to be there. And I found my first job in tech in Beijing. My first job was to work in an online dictionary, English-Chinese, and it was actually a dictionary backed up by a very big Korean group called NHN that is like the leading internet portal in Korea. And they had a branch in Beijing, and I was lucky enough to work for them for 2.5 years. And that's when I learned everything about internet and this industry. And after I worked for them, I decided to take a break and I wanted to change. And I started being interested in entrepreneurship. And that's when my friend Olaf suggested that we start organizing iWeekend event in China. Actually, he's Swedish, but lived in Spain. And in Spain, he was lucky enough to join one of the first iWeekend events. And he thought it was really great for developers, software engineers to learn how to start their own company, pitch their idea, find a team. And he was really impressed by the event. And he thought China needs this kind of
maybe this is a good time, sorry to interrupt, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, maybe for our listeners that are not familiar with iWeekend and that series, maybe you can explain a little bit about what that is and what that series aims to do.
Yes, exactly. iWeekend is a non-profit international organization born in 2007 in Spain. And the principle is it lasts one weekend from Friday night to Sunday night. And anyone who has an idea of a business, usually a website or a mobile app, can come and pitch their idea on Friday night. And the other participants will vote for the best ideas. So the 5 best ideas will be selected and we will create group. The participant will join the group they want. And during the whole weekend, Saturday, Sunday, each of these groups will work intensively to prototype the website idea they had. And the iWeekend organizer will bring in mentors, experienced entrepreneurs to come and coach each team. And at the end of the event on Sunday night, we'll have a demo night open to the public. We will invite some media, maybe some angel investor, and each group will introduce what they've been doing and what's their plan for the next 6 months, 1 year to develop their project.
And for our listeners familiar with maybe Startup Weekend or the Lean Startup Machine, iWeekend is a very similar concept.
Yeah, it's exactly similar. We have the same goal to help entrepreneurs get started and get the support they need, get the early partner they need. So yeah, we are all on the same line.
Perfect. And you mentioned that started in Madrid, Spain, I believe. Where have other iWeekends been hosted prior to the Beijing event that you organized?
Several countries like Russia and Singapore, but iWeekend right now is stronger in India, Spain, Mexico, and China.
Well, that's a perfect segue into the Beijing weekend. What was it about iWeekend or the Beijing ecosystem that made you think, you know what, this is what I need to do here in this city?
So I was into internet and I thought there was quite some excitement around entrepreneurship, but it was difficult for us to know where to look, where to get help, where to get advice. So when we decided to organize this event, I started to look into all the tech entrepreneurship related events in Beijing, and actually there were only 2 or 3 regular ones, Mobile Monday and Web Wednesday, that were organized by foreigners. And from there, we got really easily connected with the organizer, and they were really keen to help us. It was like, oh, someone want to help building the community, so they were really keen to make introduction for us to other organization. And at that time, we also noticed there's a big breakup between the expat kind of entrepreneur communities and the Chinese one, because if you don't speak Chinese very well, it's very difficult to get the information of what's the Chinese event and where it is and what it is about. And that was something we had to work around. Like for the first iWeekend, because most of the organizers were foreigners living in Beijing, the language was English, but we still got maybe half foreigners and half local Chinese joining. But after that, we realized if we really want to stay long-term in China, we need to switch and have the Chinese language event and have more Chinese local in the organization team. And that's when we got more connected with Chinese local community builders like Open Party and media like TechNode. And later we talking also with 36KR, and now there's a lot of tech cafe, and that's little by little you have to build a connection with a more local, hidden kind of community.
And is it fair to say, it sounds like you're saying that there's kind of two different startup communities. There's the local startup community, that's kind of the more expatriate startup community. Is that a fair assessment of how things are developing in Beijing, at least at the moment?
Yes, yeah, it's this way, and it's going to be difficult to change because among the expat community, I would say really a few can be fluent in Chinese. So Chinese is a very difficult language, and the number of foreigners who really get into being really good in Chinese is not that high. And then if you focus on being an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have the time as well to focus on the language. So there's naturally a gap that is sometimes difficult to bridge, but some organizations try to be more and more bilingual and play the role of bridge between these two communities. But there will always be a separation, I think.
Certainly. And I think aside from the language barrier, which is just natural and inevitable, I've read a lot about kind of a cultural difference, of course, that exists, and a certain level of distrust between those two communities that you describe. Have you noticed that, and there been kind of a lack of transparency or lack of collaboration that maybe extends beyond simply the language barrier?
Culturally, I think, yes, that's a factor. The distrust, I'm not sure, because there's a lot of distrust just among Chinese. Like, one of the first questions we had for iWeekend is, oh, I will come to present my idea. How do I know other people is not going to come and steal it? Because there is some group in China that are specialized in copycatting. Like, they're really good at implementing, they can be very fast, and their job is just to go around, check for interesting ideas, check for ideas that already make money in the US, and just copycat it very fast. Right. And so Chinese entrepreneurs are really scared of these kind of people that can implement very, very well. And yeah, for young entrepreneurs, they don't realize that the vision is sometimes what's most important, and that you know your market very well. So there's a lot of distrust, but it's not something about because you're foreigner or between foreigner and Chinese. It's just generally in China.
It sounds like it's the result of very high competition and very rapid innovation.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition because there's so many people here and so many developers. And in China, a big factor of success is often what we call the guanxi. So that means the relationship, and very, very often, and particularly like traditionally in the industry, people who succeed are the people who have a good contact and the contact with the customer. And then it's not necessarily the person who is most passionate about the product, who knows more from the start about this industry. But just because you have a contact with a big customer, then you will have the market, and you build from that. And young entrepreneurs who want to do their things by passion are really, really scared of this competitor, this kind of competitor.
And how does iWeekend kind of overcome that hesitancy to divulge your great idea for fear of copycatting or strict competition? What does iWeekend do to really bring those great ideas out to the forefront?
So the most we can do is try to reassure the entrepreneurs and try to make them understand that the idea is only maybe 10% of their success. But what's really important is, they have their passion, and they have a great team, and then they have the best advisor, the best mentors, and that they just do it. And if they start being scared of the competition before even starting, then yeah, it's not a good sign. So we just try to educate early stage entrepreneur to